Good morning, Rabbi Isai. We're holding Daf Kuv Zayin Amud Aleph. Don't get used to it. We're holding on the Daf. Unbelievable. So we're discussing about a person who does shchita and halah, who he brings the carbon on some sort of makeshift mizbeach outside of the Beis Hamikdash. It's not a real mizbeach; it's a fake mizbeach. So so we see that if somebody shechted carbon inside the Beis Hamikdash, shehelon b'chutz, and he put it on top of his own mizbeach outside of the Beis Hamikdash, that we know psukim. Muktir chutz, but how do we see that if somebody shechted outside of the Beis Hamikdash, shehelon b'chutz minayin? If the shechita happened outside of the Beis Hamikdash, how do you know that if he puts it on top of mizbeach outside of the Beis Hamikdash that he's chayav? This is the pasuk. Va'aleim toimar ish mir beis Yisrael menagesh yoga b'seicham asher yale oilo yizamach. So the Gemara darshans that don't read it aleim to them. Aleim doesn't mean to them. Over here it means. Let me see if I can go backwards over here. Va'aleim. Aleim with the ayin, which means on top of them. In other words, as we saw yesterday, the two parshas of Shechita and Halah are together. So the Gemara says, mix them up. They all serve the same thing. Why? Because we, instead of reading with the Aleph, we're going to read with the Ayin. Omer Avkana, Omer Kro. V'aleim toim al smuchim toimar. Masculine Rava, miksiv v'aleim. Does it say with the Ayin? V'aleim ksiv, with the Aleph. Elo, kidatol very small. Rava says, you can't change a meaning of a word. You can't change from Aleph to Ayin. So he says, it's the Vav of Va'aleim. Let's go back. Let's see if we have it over here. No, not this one. This one. That Vav is Moisef Alin Yerushan. In other words, the two parishes are combined. The Shechit and the Allah. Rabbi Yochanan Omar, Asya Hava Hava. As we saw yesterday, it says Haviu. It's a Gzer Shava. Over here it says Hava. Over there it says Hava. But Shechita and by Allah, Mal Allah Muktir Chutz. By Shechita, it's even if you shecht it outside, Afkan Muktir Chutz, and the Allah is outside, also Chai. Maskif Lo Rav Bivi. Hodesnan Shloishim Sheish Krisis Batoirot. There's a Mishnah in Mesechtes Krisis which we're going to get to soon. It says that there's 36 ways to be chayiv karas. As the Gemara tells them Shav Avion, and in fact, there's 37. There's two bringing on top of the mizbeach. One is if you shecht it inside and brought it outside, and one is if you shecht it outside and brought it outside. Kashya. You're right. According to what you're saying, it should be 37, not 36. Now, think about it. We discussed if you do shechita outside of the Beis Hamikdash, if you do halah outside of the Beis Hamikdash, putting the carbon on top of a mizbech outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you're chayiv. What if you do Kabbalah Saddam? What if you do the other? What are the four things? You have shechita, Kabbalah, Hilach, and Zrika. So what if you did Kabbalah? What if you did Zrika? So to answer the first thing, Kabbalah, the Gemara is going to say later on, you're not chayiv. But Zrika, yes. So here's the sugya. But it's not as Zorik makes us dom in b'chutz chayav. If you throw a little bit of blood outside of the Beis Hamikdash, it's like shechting outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you're chayiv. How do we know? Because I'm learning dom yichashav. We have two ways to learn it. According to Rabbi Shmuel, I learned from the two words dom yichashav. It comes to include l'Rabbi Chazarah. Even if you do zrika outside of something, you're chayiv. Rabbi Shmuel. Kivoimer oy zavach l'Rabbi Chazarah. Not from dom yichashav, but from two other words. Oy zavach. It comes to include zrika zadam. Rabbi Shmuel hayu zavach ma'yovele. Now this is a lot of the Gemara. Now we're going to go back and forth and back. In other words, we could either be from dam yichashav or oy zavach. Now, if you learn from Oizavach, what are you going to do with Dam Yichashav? If you learn from Dam Yichashav, what are you going to do with Oizavach? And that's what we're trying to figure out here. So simple stuff. Rabbi Shmuel, Hay Oizavach, what Rabbi Akiva used, what does he learn from there? L'chalek, to say that the pasuk actually mentions Oila and Shlamim, so you don't need to bring both outside of the Beis Hamikdash in order to be chayiv. It's either or, one or the other. That I learned from the word Oy. Rabbi Akiva l'chalek v'nalei, obviously Rabbi Akiva holds that you don't need both. It's one, either the Oila or the Shlamim. How does he know? Nu is the lashon yachid, one out of the two. Yivia nu. Shmuel, and what does he do with the Yivienu? We're going to see tomorrow that if the animal is missing something like a limb or a kizayis, let's say, so you're not chayiv if you bring such an animal on a mizbech outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Excuse me. Oisai is singular, not singular, but that it has to be whole. Oisai, a whole thing, it. Rabbi Shmuel, and what does he do with Oisai? There's two types of missing animals that are missing a limb. One is that you shechted it inside the Beis Hamikdash and you brought it outside, and the other one is you shechted it outside of the Beis Hamikdash and you brought it outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So you need two pesukim for each one for each. So said not a question, a pshat here we see mefurish that if it's missing and you bring it outside on the mizbech, you're potter. Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Kiva doesn't learn the pasuk. Why? Because he actually holds that if it's missing a limb and you bring it on the mizbech outside, you are chayav. Oh, now Rabbi Shmuel learned from the word dami choshev. So the question is, what does Rabbi Kiva learn? Rabbi Kiva, hi dami choshev ma'avale. What does he do with the word dami choshev? The Rabbi shchita sa'oiv, and this is a big chiddush, that if you shecht a bird outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you take a oila bird and shecht it in Yerushalayim somewhere, not in the Beis Hamikdash, you are chayiv just like if you shechted a carbon oila outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Rabbi Shmuel nafkelein, how does he know this halacha? Obviously, he doesn't argue that if you shecht a bird, you chayiv. Ma'oya she'yishchat, another limud. Rabbi Kiva amalach, and what is Rabbi Kiva going to do? Ma'oya she'yishchat. This is givaldik. That if you do malika, you take a bird, the oila bird, outside of the Beis Hamikdash, and you go like this with your thumb, you're potter. Because malik is only inside the Beis Hamikdash. If you do shchita of a bird inside the Beis Hamikdash, which it's not appropriate, you are chayiv. But if you do malika on a bird outside the Beis Hamikdash, you're potter. Zeh means this is the way, this shchita, because we're discussing shchita, this is how you chayiv, only through shchita and not through malika. So we have a limud yishchat. Yochel af hamoilek. I would think you chayiv even if you do malika outside of the Beis Hamikdash v'dino and it's a kavachomer. Bashchita dein derech asher b'fnim chayav malika shederech asher b'fnim ein edin shu chayav. If you do shchita on a bird inside the Beis Hamikdash, which is not the way to shech the bird, you don't shech birds inside the Beis Hamikdash. You only do malika. And if you do shchita inside the Beis Hamikdash, you're chayav. So I would think that if you do malika outside of the Beis Hamikdash, that's the way to shech the bird inside the Beis Hamikdash. You do it outside the Beis Hamikdash, you're chayav. Kamash malon that you're potter. Tamaloyma zeh hadavar. No, only through shchita. Rabbi Kiva amalach. Amebayale l'gzeir shava. This is a gzeir shava that the Gemara doesn't go into, but the gzeir shava, and I need the zeh hadavar for the gzeir shava. Well, that's not hakoymetz. Oh, so if you take a look at this, and we're going to discuss it also in the first Mishnah of Menachos, shchita lines up with kmitza. There are four avodas in a carbon: the shchita, kabbalah, halacha, and zrika, and there's four avodas in a kmitza, in a mincha. When you go like this into the flour with your hand, that's you're really mimicking the avoda of shchita. And then you take the flour and you put it into a second vessel, that's kabbalah. And then you take that vessel, you walk it towards the mizbech, that's halacha. And then you pour it onto the mizbech, that's zrika. So says the Gemara, when you do the kmitza or kabbalas hadam outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you're potter. That's what I said before. You're chayiv on shchita, you're chayiv on zrika, but you're not chayiv on kabbalas hadam. And so too, you're not chayiv on kmitza outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Minalan, how do I know this? Says the Gemara, what do you mean minalan? First you have to tell me why you think it's chayiv, then I'll tell you why it's potter. Don't ask me, how do you know it's potter? So the Gemara says, I'll tell you why. Tasting shchita. Just like shchita, if you do outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you're chayiv. So too, if you do kabbalas hadam outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you should be chayiv. Or if you do kmitza. No. Mal shchita shekenif seles shaloi la'oichlim bePesach. So the Gemara says a beautiful chiddush. Maybe we're not so aware of this chiddush. We discussed it in the past, but not so often. If a person shechs a carbon Pesach, an Erev Pesach, and he has in mind to feed it in a nursing home full of people that cannot eat meat, the carbon Pesach is pasul. So that's a chumrah that you only have by shchita. You don't have this chumrah by kmitza. Therefore, you cannot learn kmitza from shchita because shchita is more chomer. You can't learn something that's kal from a chomer. So Taisim is Rika. So maybe learn the idea of Kmitza outside of the Beis Hamikdash or Kabbalah Tzadam outside of the Beis Hamikdash from Zrika. We already established a minute ago that if you do Zrika outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you're Chayev. So too Kmitza and Kabbalah. Says Gemara, no. So there's something special about Zrika that if a Yisrael performs the Zrika, he's Chayev Misa. So says the Gemara, Taisim Benaya. Oh, so now says the Gemara, this is what Kobe did smack in the middle of this year. Oh. Take Shchita and Zrika and learn that what? Just like Shchita and Zrika, you're Chayav if you do it outside of Beis Hamikdash, so to Kabbalah and Kmitza. Now, what's the problem with Shchita? You can't learn from Shchita anything. Why? Because Shchita has a special chumrah that if you shech the carbon Pesach for somebody that doesn't have teeth, it's possible. Okay, so learn from Zrika. No, but Zrika has something special that if Yisrael performs Zrika, he's Chayav Misa. So learn from Shchita, but no. So learn from Zrika. So learn from both of them together, and then I have Kabbalah and Kmitza. So the Gemara says you can't. Why? Because then for the same price, let's learn from Shchita and Allah and do the same exact thing. Learn from Shchita. No, Shchita is special because it's Pesach. So learn from Allah. If you put it on top of the Mizbech, outside of the Beis Hamikdash. No, I can't learn from Allah because it's by Mincha. So learn from both of them together. That what? The Kabbalah and Kmitza outside of the Beis Hamikdash, Yechayev. So how come there's a pasuk to tell us that you do not do one of these? Let's learn from two of them together. You don't learn a Memetzinu to be mechayev somebody chutz lebeis hamikdash. Let's see inside. Then learn from Zrika and Hala. And how is it going to work? By Shchita we have the problem of Pesach. This is also based on that slide. We just took it. We stole it in the middle shir and in the Givaldik. But the Lamaisa there's a pasuk. Let me just make sure I didn't skip any words. So learn from both of them. No. That's why there's a special pasuk. The pasuk is telling us you cannot learn from a Memetzinu. You need a special pasuk to teach us anything that has to do with outside of the Beis Hamikdash. You're chayev. That's from a special pasuk. Okay, so Rabbi said we were discussing Zrika outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Omer Bavo, Shochat v'Zorak. What if you performed two bad things outside of the Beis Hamikdash? You did a Shchita and you did Zrika. The divrei Rabbi Shmuel chayev achas. So this is what I wanted to show you. Rabbi Shmuel says that Shchita and Zrika comes from one source. And Memela what? If a person performs both of these things, Shchita and Zrika, outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you have only one carbon if you did it by mistake. Why? Because it comes from one pasuk, one source. Rabbi Akiva says no, Zrika and Hala is one source. So in Mela, if you do Zrika and Hala, you have one. And what if you do, according to Rabbi Akiva, what if you do Zrika and Shchita? You have two, because it comes from two psukim. According to Rabbi Shmuel, what if you do Shchita and Hala? You'd also have two. Now, what if you did Shchita, Zrika, and Hala? So according to everybody, you chayv only two, because according to Rabbi Shmuel, Shchita and Zrika is one, so that's one, and then the Hala is two, and according to Rabbi Akiva, Zrika and Hala is one, and the other one is Shchita, so you chayv two. That's the Gemara until Tana Rabbana. Shachav is already Rabbi Shmuel chayv achas. The Rabbi Akiva chayv shtayim. According to Rabbi Akiva, since it's two sources, you chayv two. Abayom, I feel that Rabbi Akiva in chayv ala achas. Notice what Abai is doing here. He plays on both sides. Pretty soon he's going to say, according to Rabbi Akiva, you chayiv two. So but right now, according to Rabbi Akiva, you only chayiv one. Why? The makra sham ta'asa. He has a limud. You only chayiv one. Because of a son, kulan avodah achas. All these avodas, shchita and zrika is one. Zorak vehela. What if you only did zrika? You did zrika and you put it on top of your mizbech outside the Beis Hamikdash. The divrei Bishmal chayiv shtayim, because it's two different limudim. The Rabbi Akiva, as you can see on the left side, and chayiv elachas. It's one limud zrika and Allah. So one pasuk is really chayiv one. Now Abai says the opposite of what he said before. I feel that the Rabbi Akiva chayiv shtayim. In this case, zrika and Allah, you chayiv two. Why? Lachap al gidin krosh sham ta'alev v'sham ta'asa. Two limudim. Okay. Now shachad v'zorak v'helo. I think he has. Oh, what if he did all three? According to everybody, you only chayiv two. Why? Because Shchit and Zrika is one according to Rabbi Shmuel, and Zrika and Allah is one according to Rabbi Akiva. So Mela, you can't have three chiyuvim. You only chayiv maximum two, because two out of the three are just one chiyuv. Shachar v'zar v'helo the Re'akol chayiv shtayim. Ton Rabban. So they take out these words. We'll read it anyways, just in case. You don't take it out. Basically, because the Bryce is going to bring it again. Says the Gemara, if you do a shchita outside of the machna, maybe you have to do the shchita outside all three machnas. Here, let's see the three machnos. Oh. What if you take it out into the blue part and you shecht over there that you chayiv? You chayiv in the machna. Where do you shecht the kachi? The tzafin, in the northern part of the azara. Here, in this case, it would be in the green box, not in the purple box. So what if you shecht in the purple box? Isn't that outside of the allotted place that you're allowed to do it? I don't know if that's the word allotted, but the place that you're allowed to do it is in the green, and you did it in the purple. No, so it says no. It has to be like outside of the camp. He can never shecht any animal outside of the Beis Hamikdash. But on the southern part of the Mizbeach, you could shecht a lot of animals. Anything that's in the category of kachim kalim, like a korban pesach, a toida, a meiser, bechar, all these things that you could shecht in the southern part of the mizbeach. If you shecht on top of the roof of the heichal, you're chayiv. So over here, this is where you're supposed to sing. Oh, mashpia l'Yisrael v'yoymei. That's where you go in. All right, beautiful. So, now, you just told me that you're not chayiv in a place that you shecht, and you're chayiv in a place that you never shecht. So, guess what? On top of the roof of the Beis Hamikdash, nobody shechted there. Nobody ever shechted there. So, if you shecht something on top of the roof, you'd be chayiv. The Gemara says, yeah, you're right, you're chayiv. Because you can't shecht there or anything. Then the pasuk right after is the pasuk of Pesach Oil Mayed. Don't say it at all. What do I need it? Isn't it coming to exclude that if you did shecht on top of the roof that you're potter, not that you're chayiv? Rava, and what is Rava going to say? No, the opposite. According to you, just say that he's doing it in the opening of the Oil Mayed. The two psukim beforehand. Why do I need that at all? It's coming to include the roof that you are chayiv if you shecht on top of the roof, like it's coming to include that if the entire animal is out inside the Beis Hamikdash and the neck is sticking outside the Beis Hamikdash and you shechted it, that's a shchitas chutz yichayiv. As the Gemara tzavar b'chutz pshita, of course yichayiv. Why? Amai koped rachmana ashchita. What is the Torah so worried about? It's the shchita part. Who cares where the animal was? At the end of the day, you did the shchita while you're standing outside the Beis Hamikdash. Of course, you chayiv. Elo. The entire animal is outside the azara of the Beis Hamikdash, but its neck is inside. And you shecht it like that when the neck is inside. Guess what? You are chayiv because it's as if you shecht it outside of the Beis Hamikdash because most of the animal is outside, even though the neck is inside. Itmar. If a person brings a carbon in our days, 2025 brings it on top of Har Bayis, right outside the Mokem HaMikdash. You know exactly, here the Beis Hamikdash is right over here, and you do it over here, right next to it. Are you chayiv for shchuti chutz or not? It's very posh. Bergen says because it has to do with how much Kedusha there is. If there's Kedusha, then you're chayiv because now you took it out. You went from a kaddish to non-kaddish. But if there's no kedusha today, so where did you take it out from? It's all not kaddish. So Rabbi Yochanan says, chayiv kedusha rishono kitchel shato v'kitchel asalava. The kedusha that David HaMelech did, the kedusha that Ezra HaSofer did, it's a kedusha that lasts forever. And Mamela, you took it out of a makom kaddish into a non-makom kaddish. Shamapator kedusha rishono kitchel shato v'kitchel asalava. You're potter because there's no kedusha today. Says Gemara, Neimha, the Beplukta, the Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua, come infligi. Perhaps the Machlokes of Rabbi Yochanan and Shlakish is the same on Machlokes of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, who are Tanoim. It's not no Rabbi Eliezer, Kshoy Bainim Behechal, Hayoisim Kloim Behechal, Kloim Behazarois. When they were building the second Beis Hamikdash, they put up what is it called, the fabric that they put up in construction sites? Tarps? No, this is a better word. Okay, here's a picture. These tarps that they now every building has scaffolds today in New York, right? But yet you put the tarps, the fabric, so that stones don't fall down. This behind the tarps is where the heichal is going to be. So what they do is, says the Gemara, that they put up the tarps and they build the wall on the side of the tarp that we see. In other words, where the yellow dump truck is, that's where they're building the wall. So all the builders are never going to see the inside of the heichal. The inside of the heichal is going to be completely covered. But when they build the outside of the Beis Hamikdash, so the tarps are, I guess, where they are, but you're going to see the inside of the Azara. You're standing in the Azara and you're building the wall. That's where these people, let's say, are standing right over here. You'll be inside the Azara building it, but you won't be inside the Heichal building the wall. You'll be on the outside of the Heichal building the wall of the Heichal. So let's see inside. They put up these tarps both in the Heichal and both in the Azara. In the Heichal, they're standing on the outside of the tarp. And in the Azara, they're building inside the Azara. They would bring korbanos even though there's no Beis Hamikdash. They would eat kachikachim over there even though there's no wall. And they would eat meiser and kachim kalim even though there's no wall around Yerushalayim. Why? And they would eat in Yerushalayim. The Kedusha of Yerushalayim and the Beis Hamikdash remain in their place. That's the Machlokes Tanaim. That Rebbe Eliezer holds that you have to put up these tarps to create the Kedusha. Otherwise, there's no Kedusha. And he says, no, there's Kedusha from the previous generations. From David HaMelech and Ezra. Who told you? Everybody agrees that it's a Kedusha. So what's the Machlokes? Each one just said over what he heard from his Rebbe, that they put the tarps, they didn't put a tarp. But at the end of the day, they both agree perhaps that this is Kedusha. You're going to ask me, so according to Rebbe Eliezer, what was the point of putting up the tarps if it doesn't create the Kedusha? So what does it create? So the Gemara, it's just so that there should be tznius. It's not appropriate to show the inside of the Heichal to the world, to show all the kelim, the menorah, and the shulchan, and the mizbech hazav. We have to put a mechitza around from this musig that we had a few times of tznius. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day, and Be'ezer Hashem, I'll see you from Eretz Yisrael live.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.